Hi, so today I am making a garlic dill kraut. I love it. And so I had some, I guess recently from Whole Foods. There's not a Whole Foods here locally, so I decided I have to make my own. And one of my favorite ferments is using Napa Cabbage. So I made something the other day or a couple weeks ago using Napa Cabbage. This is Napa Cabbage. It's huge. And so I just washed it really well. I need a lot of garlic. I'm going to use 6 cloves of garlic. And I'm probably going to use 3 or 4 tablespoons of dill. Now I have dry dill, so I'm going to moisten it. In the world of herbology, with herbs, I like to moisten them before I make an extract. This isn't an extract, well kind of is, because we're going to be eating the herbs too, but I still want to moisten them. You could always use fresh herbs, that would be best. I just don't have any on hand right now. So the first thing I want to do, oh, and I did save, I'm making some cabbage soup behind me. So I saved 1 piece of cabbage to put on top to submerge everything at the end. If I didn't do that, I would just save one of these leaves to do that. So let me get a bowl of water to moisten the dill, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this. I have about a tablespoon of water, and to that I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of dill just to moisten it, just to rehydrate that dill. And I'm using a tablespoon, but I'm not being very accurate because like I said, 3 to 4 tablespoons would be good. A generous handful of fresh would be great. I just want that dill flavor, and I also want lots of garlic. The other thing I'm using this is an ice cream scoop. I'm going to use it as a tamper to press everything down into the jar. So I'm going to get 6 cloves of garlic here. And garlic is very medicinal. It's been used for thousands of centuries for all sorts of medicinal reasons. It is antimicrobial, antifungal. And so why would we eat something like that? Wouldn't that kill everything? Well, it actually harms the pathogens, but it actually feeds the beneficial bacteria. And so isn't that great? So when we take antibiotics, they can blast everything except for those resistant strains, but garlic is a little bit different. It helps to feed the beneficial microbes. And so this time of year, as we have different viruses going around, this garlic is a wonderful thing to have. So not only does it taste delicious, it is great to have on hand. And I forgot a knife, that's important. So I'm going to smash the garlic first. I put my hand on the non-sharp side and smash it. That helps me get those papery skins off. But it also combines the allanase enzymes, which are the beneficial enzymes. Now, garlic is best when it is raw. So when it is fermented, that's just going to help to increase the allanase. And so this is such a great thing to include in our ferments. I'm so excited about the garlic. So let me pull off these papery skins. And what I'm going to be doing is kind of layering my ferment. Now, I have other videos where I made kraut, where I made it with a tablespoon of salt that I alternated greens and salt, until the greens released water, and it was enough water. But today I'm going to be using a brine, which is a saltwater brine. Now, like I said, I have a quart of water with 4 tablespoons of salt in there. Okay, so the Napa cabbage, Napa is a very mild Chinese cabbage. For some reason, to me, it just gives a really delicious flavor when you ferment it. For the garlic, you could use a garlic press. I'm just going to mince it. You can see I'm thinly slicing it first. And then I'm just going to keep chopping, running my knife over it. Notice how I don't pick up my knife. I just leave that tip kind of rocking and rolling there. I call it the rock and roll. I go back and forth until they're all about the same size. And then I'm going to use the back of my knife to line them up. And I'm going to hold down that tip and go back and forth to rough chop it a little bit smaller. And just go back and forth. Now, every now and then I'll find a little hard piece of garlic from the stem, and I will just toss that out. It doesn't hurt anything to have it in there, but if you can catch it, just catch it. Without cutting your fingers, of course. Okay, so here is our garlic. I could keep chopping to make it smaller, but I don't really mind it being kind of chunky like this. That's a lot of garlic. I'm so excited. So excited. Here is our dill. It is still hydrating here. So dill it's the wonderful flavor, but it also has some chemicals in it that help the liver to detox. So not only are we putting in these wonderful antimicrobials, lots of antioxidants in dill, and that delicious smell tells us there's lots of antioxidants, but there's also these chemicals that help us with detoxification. So I'm kind of making a paste with it, which I don't want to add water to ferment. I just wanted to rehydrate this dill, because if I used fresh dill, it would already contain water. And so I just rehydrated it. You can see it's just very paste-like. Now, I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of brine to my jar. And as I add the cabbage and smash it in there, it's going to release its own liquids as well. Okay, there we go. And then at the end, if I need more brine, I'll add more brine to the top. Now, I could chop it if my board's big enough. Like I said, this one is huge. I'm just going to run my knife to make kind of like green noodles first. Let's move that out of the way. And then can you see what I'm doing? And then I'm just going to run my knife across to rough chop it. And the more I chop, the more liquid is going to be released, the more tender it's going to be. And the cabbage has its own natural bacteria on there. And so that is what we are trying to grow. Okay, so I'm going to pack these into my jar as I go. Add my garlic. Just part of the garlic, about 1/3 of the garlic. About 1/3 of the dill. And then I'm going to use my little ice cream scooper to press it down. You can see when I press it, it kind of disappears. And so usually 1 head of Asian cabbage, bok choy or Napa, is when you start smashing it like this, we'll fill up the quart jar. Maybe a quart and a pint, but usually just a quart jar. So it's amazing that this giant head of greens, but you know when you cook them, they just disappear, right? It's the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to keep repeating this. Okay, let's see how many of these greens we can get in here. So I also like to make my own ferments because not only are they so beneficial, these live enzymes from these greens. Yes, if you're in my Create a Healthier You program, you know greens 3 times a day is very, very important. What an easy way to get your greens. Eat ferments with your meals, right? 1/2 cup of ferments every day. That is a great way to get some greens. Anyway, when we make them ourselves, we know it has all these live enzymes. We know it has the active bacteria. When it's store-bought, oftentimes it is pasteurized. And so you'll want to check and see, is it raw? Is it pasteurized? Does it say it has live strains of bacteria in there? What strains are in there? Did they add any strains? I could add my own probiotics to this and make my own custom ferment as well. I won't be doing that today because sometimes that can change the flavor, and I want this particular flavor. Just the raw cabbage, garlic, dill, and salt. So you can see I'm smashing it. I'm making sure it's completely submerged under the liquid, and then I'm going to add some more cabbage. So can you believe that that head of cabbage, that was a giant head of cabbage, is probably going to be a little much for here, which is fine. Like I said, I'm making cabbage soup behind me. If I have some extra, I'll just add it to my soup, or I'll add it to my everyday salad. Either way, it's going to be great. I already put in all 6 cloves of garlic and all 3 tablespoons of dill. So I'm going to keep smashing, and I want it submerged. But if there's not enough liquid, I can always add a little bit more of my brine. And then afterwards, I'm going to use a special lid. You can buy some lids that have, I don't remember what they're called, something lock, that help the air release. If you put a regular lid on there, you're going to need to burp it, because as it ferments, it gives off gas. You'll start seeing bubbles, and so you'll want to burp it every day so that your glass doesn't explode. Or you can buy these. See, it has like a nipple that lets the air out. That's my favorite thing to use. It's a little silicone thing. This is called a Silliware fermentation airlock lid. And it fits right here on the wide mouth mason jar. So I'm going to let this sit on my counter for at least 3 days, and then I'm going to taste it, and I want it to be sour. And so if it's not quite sour enough, I'll let it sit for a week. I usually am about a 3 to 4 day person. Some of my family members like the whole week, so we'll see. We'll taste it and see as we go. I think I can do at least one more handful. And I could add the rest to a pint jar with some brine and just make a plain kraut. I could customize this any way I want. I could add bell peppers would work too, but some cayenne would be great in here, and also very healing, wonderful for the heart. That would be fabulous, actually, and give it a little more of a kick. I could add ginger. You could add whatever spices you want. It's so much fun to play with. People are afraid. They're like, what if I grow something harmful? Well, if you use all clean utensils and all clean ingredients, then everything should be fine. If it smells bad, if it grows something that looks bad and looks off, then throw it out. Okay, so I don't think I can put any more in here. The rest will go in my everyday salad and my soup. Have liquid on the top. See if I can even... Oh, I chopped my cabbage leaf. I chopped my cabbage, didn't I? Well, I want it completely submerged. You can buy little glass weights that can sit on top to hold it under. I do not have such a thing. So, I can't believe I did that. I can believe I did that. I've done that before. Let me see if I have another cabbage in my fridge that I can use to cover it. Okay, here is a beautiful cabbage leaf. I'm just going to fold it to get it to fit right on top to submerge all of my kraut. And in 3 days, when I go to taste it, I will just throw this away. There we go. So it's going to sit on top, hold everything down. I'm going to put my little pink airlock lid on top. Twist the band on top, and I will replace the band in 3 days too, because the fermentation, it will kind of corrode the lid, and so I like to replace them often. And liquid is going to come out of the top as it bubbles up. So I like to sit it inside a glass bread pan like this. That way any liquid that bubbles up and comes out will go into there. It's contained. I don't have to worry about it getting all over my countertop. Anyway, in a couple of days, I will taste it and show you where we are. And I hope that you can play with some ferments and make some fermented vegetables too. So I can't wait to taste it. I'll see you in a couple of days. Okay, here is our kraut. It's been a couple of days. You can see it's a little bit, it's not quite as vibrant in color. And so I'm just going to take off the lid. Yeah, right. It is really juicy. You can see all the liquid at the top. So I'm gonna put it in my little bowl here. Okay, and so I'm gonna lift off that piece of cabbage on the top. See if I can figure out how to show you. All right, so here is my cabbage. I'm lifting it off the top. And then inside I have our kraut. I'm gonna taste it. It could be a little more sour. Or I can say, you know what, let's go with it and stick it in the fridge. It's still a little crunchy, so I think it could go another day. But just taste it and see if it's where you want it to be. Now, I don't know if you can see the little bubbles on the top. That means that we do have some live bacteria in there, so that's good. We want to see some bubbles on the top, see that there is some gas being given off as the bacteria are breaking down the kraut. So I'm gonna put a lid on it, and then maybe if I shake it, you can see more of the bubbles. Or maybe not shake it, but turn it over. I don't know if you can see the bubbles in there. There's a few bubbles. Anyway, what I need to do next, it got juice all over it, and so I'm going to dry it off and put a label on here. I usually don't keep mine more than about 3 or 4 months. It won't last that long anyway. Slowly increase how much you eat. If you're not used to eating ferments, eat a teaspoon, or better yet, just have a teaspoon of the liquid, or maybe even a half a teaspoon of the liquid, depending on how sensitive you are. What I will do, if I haven't had any while, I usually have a tablespoon, but you can start slower than that if you need to. Start with a teaspoon, gradually work your way up, and if you could get to a half a cup a day, that would be fabulous. Think about all those wonderful microbes helping your gut, helping you with digestion. It's just absolutely fabulous. Anyway, so now up close, maybe you can see that the colors have changed. With the way I layered it, you can see there's a clump of dill. So as I start eating it, I will start mixing it up a little bit more because it does have that garlic, it does have that dill in there, and I want to incorporate those flavors. Anyway, I hope you make your own kraut with the garlic and dill. I would love to hear that. If you make a different flavor, please let me know. Comment, comment, comment. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you're making. Let me know what else you would like to make. Anyway, I hope you prepare this. Enjoy. Make sure you comment, share, and subscribe to my channel.